We shall now go on with our first speaker, Dr. Sheetal Brar, who's a senior consultant cataract, cornea, and refractive surgery of Netradama Hospital, Bangalore, who will be talking on recent advances in IOL power calculation. It's a very important topic for all of us, and it has been on a stepwise climb in the ladder. And Sheetal Brar is a senior consultant and research director of Netradama Super Specialty Hospital, has been a path blazer with absolutely amazing sequence, the best of best ASCRS video awards year after year, a solid internationally known and respected smile surgery trainer, having trained 75 national and international surgeons in the refractive surgery, has participated in huge numbers of master classes, instruction courses, 40 publications in index journals, and review of journal of great repute. On to you, Sheetal. It's never ending, this intro of yours.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah, good evening, everyone. And I would like to thank ARCIOC for this wonderful opportunity. So I'll be sharing my slides now. So are my slides visible?
Yeah.
Okay, so friends, today I'll be talking about advances in IOL power calculations. So it's a very complex topic, and I'll do my best to justify this topic in the next 15 minutes or so. So as we all know that IOL power calculations or biometry is a field which is continuously improving and evolving, and it's extremely important to stay abreast with the new generation formulae, because we are in the era of refractive cataract surgery, wherein the percentage of patients going in for multifocals and toric lenses is increasing, and we cannot afford to have refractive surprises due to poor biometry. So it's very important to have most accurate and updated IOL formulas to be used in our practice. So categorization of the formulae is basically now changing. So previously we used to categorize IOL formulae on the basis of the generations, and this is how they were categorized earlier, the first generation, second generation, third and the fourth generation formulae. So briefly, the first generation formula was the SRK formula, which was based on the simple linear regression, is no longer used now. And the second generation was again SRK2 formula, which was same as SRK, but just added a fudge factor for the small or large eyes. This was also a regression formula, and these both formulas are not used because they were only based on regression analysis, and they did not involve the optics of the eye or any theoretical model of the eye, so they were not very accurate. So then we had the third generation formulae, which are the SRKT, Hoffer Q and Holiday 1 formula. Now these formulae use keratometry and axial length to determine effective lens position. And then we have the fourth generation formulae, which are Holiday 2, Hagees, Olson, and Barrett's Universal 2, which use additional data for better ELP prediction. Now these formulae, the third and the fourth one, are the Vergennes formulae. So moving to the recent classification or the modern classification of intraocular lens formulae, which is based on how these formulae are derived. So based on the derivation, they could be historical or refraction based formulae and regression formulae, which, as I already told, are obsolete now. And now we have the Vergennes formulae. And these formulae are further classified on the basis of how many variables they are using. So Vergennes formula based on two variable formulae, which are the Holiday 1, SRKT, and Hoffer Q, the third generation one. And then the three variable formulae, that is a Hagees LADA super formula, five variable formulae, the Barrett Universal 2, seven variable formula, which is the Holiday 2, sorry, and then the artificial intelligence based formulae, which are the most popular of which is the Hill RBF calculator, and then the ray tracing formulae such as the Olson, Oculix, and the Phaco optics. So now the classification is mainly based on the formula, the basis of which on which they have been derived. So this figure is very commonly used to show the evolution of the different formulae and the applicability of different formulae in various scenarios and across different axial lengths. So just going to a little bit of basics. regression formulae, which were the first generation and second generation, which are obsolete now, versus Vergennes formula. What is the difference? So this is for the postgraduates. So regression formulae basically rely upon the statistical data of the previously operated eyes and their post-operative outcomes. So this was only based on the post-operative outcomes and the data of the operated eyes, and this did not used to take into account any optics of the eyes, so they were not accurate at all. So Vergennes formulae are based on the Gaussian optics, and they assume that the image Vergennes is equal to the object Vergennes plus the lens Vergennes. So when I say Vergennes is the optical principle which converts the distance into power. Okay, so most of the modern day IOL calculation formulae are based on the equation. This is a very complex equation which was formulated by Fedorov. So in this equation, you already know the keratometry, axial length, the desired refraction, and the vertex distance. But what is not known is the effective lens position. And effective lens position is something which is very important to know because this is what will determine where your lens is going to sit inside the bag, and based on this information you can derive the most accurate calculation, the IOL formula and the IOL power. So ELP is something which is estimated using a number of variables, and different formulae use different variables to estimate the ELP. So when we talk about third generation formulas, the SRK-T, Holiday 1 and Hoffer Q, these are still quite widely used, and but the issue is that they depend mainly on two variables. So there are two variable formulae just depending upon the axial length and keratometry to predict the effective lens position. However, with time they are evolving, and they have incorporated complex theoretical mathematical derivations to incorporate into the biometry data for better IOL prediction. Fourth generation formulae, on the other hand, have incorporated additional patient variables to further decrease the prediction error and improve refractive outcomes. So such as in the Haigis formula, they have introduced three independent constants, A0, A1 and A2 into the equation to add more flexibility to the formula. And all the three constants can then be optimized via linear regression to improve the predictability further. In the Holiday 2 formula, what they have done is that they have added 7 variables. Okay, so axial length, keratometry, ACD, white to white, lens thickness, preoperative age, refraction, and age. So they have added a more number of variables. However, what they found in the studies was that the Holiday 2 formula was did not fare significantly better in normal to long axial length eyes, but in the short axial length eyes, this was slightly better compared to Holiday 1 and was equivalent to Haigis to Hoffer Q formula for the short eyes. So results from another study also showed very similar absolute error values between Holiday 1 and Holiday 2, with the trend toward better accuracy for Holiday 1. So Holiday 2 in most of the studies has not really shown to be way better or significantly better compared to Holiday 1 formula. The Barrett Universal 2 formula is something which is everyone is using these days, is very popular formula because it works across most of the ranges of axial lens and keratometries. The formula is based on a theoretical model eye, and it retains the positive correlation of axial length with keratometry to ACD. So what also makes this formula very successful is the incorporation of the principal plane of the IOL into the formula, as well as some kind of a compensation for the posterior astigmatism of the cornea. So when this formula was compared with newer generation peers, this continued to perform well over wide ranges of biometry values. And the Barrett formula also had the smallest percentage of eyes with more than 1 diopter of prediction error. Now coming to the newer generation formulae, the first formula I would like to talk about is the ray tracing formulae. Now, the traditional IOL formulas also have one limitation, that they are based on the thin lens formula concept, which basically assumes that the optics of the cornea and the IOL are single refracting surfaces, whereas they are not. Okay, so from this thin lens formula, a virtual IOL position is then back calculated after the surgery, which is then which is said as the effective lens position, which is derived after the surgery. So this is not a very great way to predict the effective lens position. So what ray tracing does is that ray tracing is based on the Snell's law, and it tracks the light as it passes through the different refractive media of the eye based on the Snell's law. And the most popular formula which uses ray tracing technology is the Olsen formula, and this formula uses ray tracing and thick lens consideration, not the thin lens, but the thick lens consideration into account for the true physical dimension of the eye's optical system. So the main feature of this formula is the newly developed concept, which is called the C constant. And this is available on the Lenstar and Phaco Optics. So what exactly is the C constant? C constant is actually basically the fraction of the lens thickness. So if you have the lens thickness, the total lens thickness, the C constant is a fraction of this lens thickness by which the center of the IOL will locate itself post-operatively. So what this means is that if your C constant is say 0.5, then your IOL will locate itself exactly in the center of the crystalline lens or the middle of the empty capsular bag. So effective lens position will be a sum of ACD plus half of the thickness of the lens thickness. So in this formula, it is basically using the lens thickness and the ACD only for ELP estimation. And so the benefit of this formula is that it works independent of the traditional factors such as axial length, keratometry, white to white, IOL power, age, gender, any type of eye, and including the previously undergone LASIK refractive surgery eyes also have shown good results with this formula. And in Dr. Olsen's practice itself, the formula has enabled him to achieve a mean absolute error of on average of 0.3 to 0.4 diopter. So another equipment which uses ray tracing technology is the MS39 AS-OCT. So it is the most advanced device for the analysis of anterior segment of the eye. It combines Placido disc topography with high resolution OCT to give high resolution anterior segment tomography cross-sectional images over a range of over a span of 16 millimeters corneal diameter. So this machine also has an IOL calculation module available inside, which is based on the ray tracing techniques, and this also measures the lens thickness. And we are using this formula and this technique for technology for post-refractive surgery eyes. And what we are seeing is that the predictability of ray tracing technology in this scenario is very similar to the gold standard Barrett TrueK formula and also the Barrett TK, which I'll be talking about later. So the ray tracing technology is also available in Pentacam HR, where it uses the total corneal refractive power map, which is calculated using the ray tracing, and this is a very precise and accurate calculation method for alignment of toric IOLs. And these total corneal refractive power values can be directly incorporated into Phaco Optics software, which were designed by Thomas Olsen for IOL power calculations. So this is the software which incorporates with Pentacam HR, and the total keratometric values can then be used to predict IOL power and the effective lens position. So next formula is the artificial intelligence based formula, Hill radius basis function, or the RBS calculator. So this formula is based on artificial intelligence and regression analysis both. So the regression analysis comes from the very large database of actual post-surgical refractive outcomes to predict the IOL power. And in addition, it also uses pattern recognition to account for some of the undefined factors that cannot be controlled with Vergence or ray tracing equations. Now, there's a certain limitation of this calculator, which is that it basically depends upon the data or the database of the specific types of eyes which are included in the database. So if you have an eye, the anatomic characteristics of this eye, if they don't match with many of the eyes in the database of this software, then the software flags these eyes as out of the bounds, which means that in these eyes, the
1 minute left.
predictability of the accuracy will be less. So with this is how the calculator looks like, and this is continuously evolving. And then we have the Kane formula, and the Kane formula, this is based on the theoretical optics and incorporates both regression and artificial intelligence components to refine its predictions further. So this formula is available both for toric calculations and non-toric calculations, and also for eyes with keratoconus. Okay, and then we have the LADA super formula. So this formula is basically, it aims at developing a graphical method for displaying IOL calculations in 3 dimensions. So based on the peer-reviewed literature, the most accurate portions of each of the modern IOL formulas were chosen, and an IOL super surface was developed based on the amalgamation of these formulas. And from this super surface, the super formula was derived. So this is available on the iolcalculation.com website. And the benefit of this formula is that they are usable, it is usable for all types of eyes, short or long, flat or steep, and different types, different ACD depths. And because of the concept of 3-dimensionality, its depicted super surface serves as a graphical method of computing one or more formulas. And it also takes away the burden and the effort from the surgeon to deal with multiple formulas. So I also wanted to just briefly talk about the total keratometry, which is available in the IOL Master 700, which enables the actual measurement of the posterior corneal surface and does not assume the measurements of the corneal surface. And with this, with the incorporation of total keratometry, 2 new formulae, the Barrett TK Universal 2 and Barrett TK Toric, have evolved. And then there is this last formula, which is the emetropia verifying optical, or EVO formula. This is based on the theory of emetropization, and it generates the emetropia factor. And based on this, what they say is that because the cornea growth is mainly completed at infancy, the majority of the eye growth occurs in the posterior segment. So for a specific corneal power, there is a specific axial length and effective lens position to achieve emetropia. This is also a thick lens formula, and it can handle different IOL geometry and powers. So this is available at the evocalculator.com, and also a toric version is available. So to conclude, with continued deployment of advanced mathematical techniques, artificial intelligence, precise biometric instruments, and introduction of additional variables, the IOL calculations have now improved significantly, and they still have potential to reach new heights of accuracy and simplicity. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Sheetal, for a very complete overview of the different IOL formulae and the essential principles involved. There are going to be some questions here, and I would want my expert panel also to be involved. So, Sheetal, the question is directed to you, but it's thrown open to the others. What would you say? Now, we believe that Barrett's has become the mantra for all kind of scenarios. But what would you advise as the different alternatives or the best formulae for extremes of axial length for short eyes and long eyes?
So I think those clinicians who have access to IOL Master and LensStar, they also have access to say formula like Olsen formula. So I just described that Olsen formula works over, it is independent of axial lengths, and it works over the whole range of axial lengths. So if you have high-end optical biometers, then it makes your job easy, because the measurements of lens thickness and axial length are very, very accurate. So the formula and most of the formulae are incorporated in them, so you can use them easily. Whereas those surgeons who are still using the 3rd generation formulae, and for them, for extreme axial length, I think the Wangkok modification of the 3rd generation formulae is still very useful. And this modification is shown to be at par with the latest generation formulae. in terms of accuracy. And for extremely short eyes, I think the Hoffer-Q formula is still very, very accurate and still gives very good results.
Short eyes, I believe that the Barrett's and the Hill RBF would be
also, they are also, yeah, I'm just talking about those who are still not using the Barrett's formula and the more advanced ones. But if they are sticking to third generation formulae, then Hoffer-Q for short eyes and SRKT for long eyes.
I know. You believe that they still have a role to play? SRKT.
So basically, yeah, this is for those who are not still using Barrett's formulae and the most modern formulae. But SRKT formula and the third generation formulae, even if the surgeons optimize their constants, A constants further, they can still get very good results. I think it's all about the measurements, the accurate measurements and optimization of the A constants.
Dr. Ramurthy, did you want to add? Dr. Ramurthy? Dr. Sri Ganesh?
Yeah, I think now most of the formulas are available on website. So see, basically for the postgraduates, when you start off your practice, you may not have access to very high-end devices like the LensStar or the IOL Master 700, but then you can see that the Barrett's formula especially is available on the APACRS website, AACRS website. So you can easily access this. And in our practice, we are using the Barrett suite on the IOL Master 700, and it works very well. The Universal 2 and the Universal 2 Toric is excellent for all axial lengths. And we find that in almost 95% of our cases were within half a diopter spherical equivalent. Of course, if you have post-refractive surgery, then you have to be careful, and then you will have to have special formulae for this. I think the future to come will be ray tracing, because with ray tracing, you are not exactly dependent on the axial length and you can, or the keratometry, but you are measuring the optics as it is. And we are using this now, and we're doing a comparative study. We have the MS39, which basically is a high-end, high-resolution OCT, which maps all the surfaces and then looks at the individual optical surfaces. And then also it takes into consideration the abrasions. If you just take the K readings, suppose the cornea is abrated, you have a high spherical abrasion, then what happens is, again, your IOL calculation may not be accurate in the normal formulas. But what happens with ray tracing is it takes the complete optics of the surfaces and then calculates according to this. And what we have seen is, even we are doing a study on post-refractive surgery eyes, because these are the very challenging eyes, even post-RK or post-LASIK corneas, where you can have a lot of abrasions. And then hitting the target in these eyes is very difficult. And we have seen that what works well is the Barrett True-K, which is emerged as the formula for post-refractive. But even there's a TK True-K, which is even better if you have the IOL Master 700. But the ray tracing optics are very close. The difference between the two is less than 0.5, and then we're studying this. And the advantage of ray tracing is you can actually show the patient on a simulated Snellen's chart as to what is the kind of vision. Say, suppose you put in a toric, what is going to be the vision, the E-chart, the image, the retinal image. And if you put in a non-toric, then how it's going to be distorted. If you put in a multifocal, what is going to be the vision for distance? What is it going to be the vision for near, including the contrast you can show them. So this is something that, the patient can actually see visually and then decide. So it will be an excellent counseling tool. So that is what we are awaiting. And I think this is probably the future where you can actually look at the result even beforehand.
It's a very typical postgraduate question I'm asking. Why is the IOL power calculation a challenge in these post-refractive surgery eyes? Anybody who
so basically you have the anterior to posterior corneal ratio changes, which is called the Gullstrand ratio. So cornea flattens, and also the refractive index of the cornea, which we always take as 1.337. traditionally. So there is an error because of the change in the refractive index also. So especially in cases of post RK, where the flattening is very, very, it can be extreme flattening. So in these cases, finding the IOL power can be much more difficult. So in the post LASIK cases, you can have a hyperopic surprise post-op, and in the post myopic, you can have a post myopic cases, you can have a hyperopic surprise, and vice versa for the post hyperopic. So it's
you have extreme flattening. The problem with
the
post refractive is, one is that there is extreme in myopic or hyperopic, there's a change in the center, and the normal curvature is lost. And generally with keratometry, we measure the 3 millimeter, but the relationship between the central cornea and the 3 millimeter, which is assumed in normal formulas, that is lost, because you have in post myopic LASIK, you have extreme flattening of the center. So it does not correspond very well. This is one of the problems. The other is the Gulstrand's ratio is altered. That is the ratio between the anterior and posterior, which can be anywhere between 0.8 to 0.9. This is altered when you have extreme flattening. And most of the formulas use the refractive index in the formula as a compensation for the posterior curvature. So normally we take it as 1.33, though it is 1.37. This is basically to compensate for the posterior curvature. And when this Gulstrand's ratio is altered, again the and you don't change the refractive index, then you can get the target is off. And then the other aspect is the ELP. Because there's extreme flattening, again the ELP also changes. The ELP is calculated depending upon the axial length and the keratometry. When there's extreme flattening of the keratometry, again the ELP is changed. So these are the main factors which can influence. Of course, the abrasions also which are induced. If you have a high spherical abrasion, that also influences the calculation. So there are many factors, and all these have to be taken into consideration when you're calculating for post-refractive surgery.
So one quick question, Dr. Shri. Do you also take into account the spherical aberration of the eye when you choose the IOL, the type of the IOL which you're going to implant?
Yeah, basically for post-refractive surgery, we do the topography, we do the pentacam, and we look at basically the distribution, the EKR distribution. If it's Gaussian, that shows that the ablation is well centered and the cornea is fairly regular. But if it is very irregular, the EKR graph is very irregular, that shows that the distribution of K is irregular. So you can have difficulty in calculating the target emmetropia. So, and also you get the corneal abrasions. And if you have a high abrasion, suppose you have a high positive spherical abrasion, then you select a lens with a negative asphericity, like the Tecnis lens, which is 0.27 minus 0.27. So it compensates for the positive spherical abrasion. Whereas in a high hyperopic correction, where you have a negative spherical abrasion, you do not use a negative aspheric lens. You can use a plano, or you can just use a regular spheric lens with a positive spherical aberration. So this kind of balances out. So it's very important to look at the topography, to look at the spherical aberration, to look at the distribution of the case before you take a decision and about the IOL.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sri Ganesh and Sheetal, for clearing some very essential doubts. I think we could have a session on biometry in one of our future webinars, which would give us a lot more information.